And away we go.
Now, you was telling me something, Bob. What was it?
Well, I said I was fit as a fiddle, and that reminded me of the Fiddlers Convention that they had cut down close to home. And you couldn't get within miles of it of a car. They just packed in there. So we took the truck, and I had a 2-horse trailer, and I took two horses. I had about 4 at the time, but I took a little Arabian filly. She rode real good, and I had a good riding quarter horse. So we took those 2 up there.
Going to a fiddler's convention?
Yeah, but see what we did?
A lot of people take fiddles.
We parked about 4 or 5 miles away and rode the horses in. That's the only way you could. In other words, you had to park 4 or 5 miles away and walk in there if you didn't. So we just played it smart. We took 2 horses up and rode them in up to the Fiddler's Convention.
I guess everybody's happy but the horses.
Well, the horses, they appreciate that music, the horses did, yeah. Did you hear on TV today where they have this haunted store over in Knoxville?
No, I missed that part.
Well,
I ain't got no television.
they come on and said that a lot of times they play stereo in the store, music, that sort of thing. They said every time they played Frank Sinatra's music, when it quit, when it went off, immediately after that, the commode would flush, the lights would blink, and they called people in there, and it actually happened as soon as he quit singing. Evidently the spirits didn't like him not singing, and all sorts of strange things will happen in that store when Sinatra quits singing.
Well, now, I'm saying that maybe they're just wanting some more business, and it seems like a good time to draw it in.
It may possibly be.
Yeah, stuff like that happen.
Well, did you see the bank getting some additional business down here?
No, I missed that.
When the car ran in.
Oh, yeah. They had that drive-in banking, didn't they?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, that's pretty good.
He took it literally.
Well, I'm more into drive-through banking than I am drive-in banking.
Well, I'm going to tell you a story. I had a friend who died about 5 years ago, and a real good friend, and he was listed as the 50th wealthiest man in the United States. So I told him he was listed as the 50th wealthiest man in the United States. He said, you know what he said? He said, well, somebody's got to be in that position.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, he was quite a character. He was a Jewish boy, but contrary to his upbringing, Did he eat
them there kosher pigs you raised?
No, he divorced his first wife, and he was quite a rounder in town. He had plenty of money. He had enough money at Christmas. He went down to the Randolph County Jail and bonded everybody out that was bondable, regardless of how much the bond was. He bonded.
Well, I don't know. Probably that woman that got the old man put in jail for slapping her around wasn't glad to have him home for Christmas.
Well, he did that, but like I say, he was around. He divorced his wife. Had a pretty little Jewish wife. I used to go around and eat them beagles with her in the morning and drink coffee many times. Well, he owned a massage parlor. Okay.
I've always wanted one.
He didn't operate it, but he owned it, and he had all the money in it, and so he up and married one of the girls up there that was working at the massage parlor.
Yeah, he needs a rub down, he'd be right handy.
Well, that lasted about 4 or 5 years, and he divorced her. Well, in the settlement, she got $7,000 a month she got a big house up on what they call Rich Hill, but it wasn't because rich people there. It was where people by the name of Rich lived.
Okay.
And my daughter is married to a rich. One of my daughters is married to a rich, it's the same family. Well, he divorced her. She got, like say, $7,000 a month. She got a new BMW, a new one of these things you ride on the trail, you know, with the top on it. She got that, and she got that house up on Ridge Hill, which she sold. Well, they finally got down. They were living in a U-Haul.
Who was? She was?
She was with $7,000 a month on dope real bad.
That's kind of like me. I live in a truck.
Okay, they were living in a U-Haul. She and her boyfriend, I knew him real good too. And they had that BMW in the back
Yeah.
and that four-wheeler, okay, hauling it around plus some other personal stuff. So they go in the bank one day, which was that was a SunTrust bank. In that rental truck, it was a big one, you know, it would not go under the drive-in branch.
Oh.
So they took the whole drive-in branch, their outside unit down, you know.
Well, you know, right down here at this apartment,
Right.
that used to be a saloon back in the old days. On 2 different occasions, somebody come out of Hunter's Branch and just kept going. Stuck out the back end of it once. You know over where Beck's Curve is, coming out of Knoxville on Clinton Highway?
Yeah.
Oh, they used to take that out right regular.
That's one just right before you get down there to the fiddler's place.
Yeah,
Guitar place.
that's the store they went through.
Well, I almost had an accident today. I take a gentleman who doesn't drive a lot of places, and he has a doctor's appointment at 2:45. So at exactly 11 minutes past 2, he calls me, you know, make sure I'm coming.
Yep. I know how he
Well,
feels, you know, never know.
I was sitting right at the end of my driveway, looking both ways when it rang, so I stopped and answered it, and I told him it's time to leave my driveway. Right now I'll be on up there. I didn't recheck and look too good again, and I almost pulled out in front of one of these delivery trucks that's flying up through there about 50
I
miles.
know, Bob, you're going to run over somebody yet. Try to run over somebody important, a local politician or
Right.
something.
Well, I don't know, you know. Like I say, you can tell whether it's a politician or a possum run over on the road because
Yeah, I know.
there's
Yeah,
skid
I know.
marks in front of
Them
the possum.
buzzards won't fool with nothing but possum.
Yeah, there's skid marks in front of the
I
possum.
told you I saw one of them armadillos down in Spring City, didn't I?
Yeah, you told
I
me.
couldn't
That's
hardly
just right
believe
there,
it.
Right there below Sweetwater.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. Well, it's over from Sweetwater, but you're going generally the right direction.
Yeah. It's not
Yeah.
too far from Sweetwater.
Yeah, it's closer to Sweetwater this year.
Yeah. Well, that's great. You know, I've seen a mini one.
Armadillos have got to be somewhere.
Yeah, I've seen a mini one, you know, in South Carolina and Georgia and Florida all around, but I've never really seen one up here in Tennessee.
Oh, they've got them West Tennessee, plenty of them, I reckon, but this is the first time I'd seen one that close to home.
Right.
You know, Jerry Clower used to talk about them years and years ago down in Alabama, said they called them possum on the half shell.
Yeah, said you can eat possum. Have you ever eaten any possum?
No?
I have.
Any good?
It's not bad. They got a big streak of good meat right up the back. The rest is pretty much fat, you know. But you know how you cook that possum, don't you?
Well, sweet taters.
No. You take him and put him in a pan, and you dress him out. and you pack horse manure all around.
I've heard that, and then you throw the possum away.
Throw the possum away and eat the horse manure.
I've cleaned them. I used to sell their skins, their hides.
Right.
I trapped all winter one winter, and I ended up having about around $8, and I bought a .22 rifle with it. Still got the rifle.
What is it? On them J.C. Higgins?
No, it's maybe I don't remember what it is. Maybe it ain't a Mossberg, I don't think. I don't remember what it is, but I've got it. It's a good shooting little gun. I've had it for around 60 years.
All right, well, now I've got one sitting in my closet.
It's a little bolt action.
It's a 12 gauge single shot
Yeah.
with a 32-inch barrel. My Uncle Dean gave that to me when I was 16 years old. And it was my Uncle Allen's gun. Uncle Allen had no children, and he was killed in the First World War. And my daddy lived up here, and my Uncle Dean lived down there where my Uncle Allen lived, and he got Uncle Allen's stuff, which I don't imagine he had a whole lot. But he got his shotgun. Well, my Uncle George had borrowed my daddy's shotgun, which my grandpa gave one to each of the boys, just alike, an old 12 gauge, just the same thing. Mine's a Southern Cross. So my Uncle George borrowed my daddy's shotgun, and Uncle George was bad to drink, and he stuck the end of my daddy's shotgun in the snow and didn't get the snow out, and it busted the barrel when he shot it. So my daddy did not have a shotgun to give any of his boys. So we went down visiting in South Carolina where my Uncle Dean lived when I was 16 years old, and I got to drive part of the way down there, which just tickled me to death.
It's like them people down the holler when you're pulling out on the road. They just tickle to death.
So he gave me this shotgun. Well, I carried it home, and that fall, I went dove hunting with it. Well, the doves were flying real high that day.
You didn't kill an airplane, did you?
But that old 32-inch barrel would reach up there and get them, and the rest of them boys wasn't even bringing a feather out of them. So I shot that thing. And I went home that night. I never had anything to hurt me as bad as my shoulder did from shooting that 12 gauge, 32-inch barrel with absolutely no cushions on the stock or anything.
Shooting it up.
So I told myself that night, and this was, like I say, almost 80 years ago. Well, it is 70 years ago.
Yep.
70 years ago. I said, if I ever shoot this gun again, I want somebody to shoot me. Well, it's standing in my closet, and it has not been shot for 70 years.
You ain't got no use for it. Y'all just make a boat anchor out of it.
Well, I keep it cleaned up, and I keep it loaded. So if somebody breaks in the house, I'm going to have to weigh the odds of which one's going to get hurt, the worse, me or the one breaking into the house.
Did you ever see an 8 gauge or a 10 gauge?
I've owned a couple of 10 gauges.
Did you shoot them?
Yeah. The first 10 gauge I ever bought, I didn't realize it was a double barrel.
Uh-oh.
I didn't realize that when you shot the right barrel, that if you had the left one cocked, it would go off also.
Yeah.
So, so we were quail hunting.
Yeah.
And
killed every quail in the country.
Well, I had enough shot in that thing. I had about number 9 shot. Must have had 10,000 shot in each shell because it's about that big around.
Killed the whole flock.
So we were going along, and all of a sudden, we had a dog, had a pointer, and she pointed, and we knew there was about to be a cubby rise.
Yeah.
So I cocked both of the barrels on that 10 gauge up through the covey, boom, boom, and I sat on the ground. It knocked me flat on the ground. So that's a real.
How many did you get?
Huh?
How many?
There was birds falling everywhere.
You know, I've never shot a 10 or a 8 gauge. I'd always heard of them, but I never did see one. But I saw one of both out in. There's a gun, there used to be anyway, 40 years ago, a gun museum out in Dodge City.
Okay.
And I went through there and saw them. Now, did they make a 6 gauge?
I never heard of a 6
Well, I
gauge,
don't.
you
I
know.
guess 8 was the biggest the lowest number and the biggest load that I've ever
Right.
seen. But
Well-
I tell you, they're mean-looking little pieces of machinery.
Well, you know, if a 6 is as much smaller as an 8 is from a 12,
You mean bigger?
bigger, I mean, it wouldn't be quite that big, but it's got to be a humongous thing.
Yeah, it'd be what they call in the old days a cannon, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Have you ever seen a real true blunderbuss?
No, never did see no blunderbuss. I never seen a matchlock either.
Okay, but they have a blunderbuss in Trion's Palace in Greenville, North Carolina.
I've been by there,
Okay. They have a blunderbuss mounted on the wall there, and what they did, they load that thing with powder, and then they just dump whatever they want
Yeah.
to down the barrel, you know.
Mhm.
And I imagine that was a wicked shooting thing.
Well, there's some of them, you know, you'd set a pole up and set your gun down in the crook, and then there's a fork, and then somebody had to light it. They'd light it with a candle.
Right.
Ooh, boy, I wouldn't want to have been on the short end of that or the long end, either one.
I've had several black powder guns, you know, pistols and
I've got
rifles.
where can I get a new firing pin put I've got
over at Fox and Company
where's that at?
on Central Avenue.
Okay, I've got a 22 pump. You know, they've got that thing you pull out and put
Right.
the
Yeah.
bullet down in there and
Yeah.
run. Belonged to my daddy's brother, my uncle. He gave it to him, and I went to shoot it and it just fires every now and then. I figure it's firing.
Well,
pin.
there's also a place in
I've had it 20 years,
Oak Ridge.
25 years.
Oak Ridge, right before you get to Tractor Supply on the left, same side of the road. Okay, and you'll see guns and repair and everything written on the building if you'll notice when you go up to there.
I may go some of these days go over and get that thing fixed. It's
Right.
in a cedar chest put away. I ain't seen it in 10 years, don't guess, but well, 5 or 6 years. I think I got out and looked at it. Yeah, but it's a good little gun. I ought to get that
22,
thing.
there's 22 also.
Is it what?
22.
Yeah, it's a 22 pump.
Okay,
Pretty little gun.
right. I had
My uncle gave it to my daddy. My uncle was sick,
right.
and he gave it to my daddy, and he said, "Well, you just hang on." He didn't want to give it to him because he had a boy that wanted the gun too, I think, and my uncle wanted my daddy to have it, and he gave it to him. He said, "Nah, I'm not giving it to you, but you just hang on to it till I come after it."
Right,
And he lived another 2 or 3 months.
right,
And Pop kind of figured he wasn't coming after it, so he
Right.
gave it to me when
right. Yeah.
No, he
and,
didn't give it to me. He just, it was mine.
But prettiest gun I ever had was an Australian kangaroo rifle.
You shoot a lot of kangaroos out in North Carolina, do
No,
you?
no, but it was an authentic Australian kangaroo rifle somebody had bought.
That's something
part
like
of
Quincy Down Under used.
it. Quigley.
Yep.
No, I wasn't Quigley.
Well,
But it
what,
was-
talk politics to me a minute. How's the election looking?
Well, I voted yesterday.
You did?
Yeah. And I wrote your name in for president.
That's good. That's
I
good.
wrote your name in also for mayor.
I don't want that
Okay.
job.
Okay. So
You know what would happen? I noticed our local mayor's already got thank you signs up because there wasn't nobody run against him. What
Right.
happened if we just organized a ride-in campaign and beat him?
Well, that possibly could have been done if we did.
Yeah, I didn't even think about it.
Oh Lord, yeah. And
Well, I've
I
decided
did not vote for mayor. I just skipped it.
I ain't a voting but one time for the rest of my life. I'm gonna vote for Donald Trump once, and then I'm done.
I didn't. I did not vote for state senator. I did not vote for our local representative. 'Cause
Well, what
I'm
do you
still
think?
upset about the building code.
Yeah, me too. Well, what do you think about these here people, these rebellious Utes, these rebellious Utes that want freedom and not nobody tell them what to do, and they want to be independent and totally free to come and go as they please. They don't want no authority over them, so they claim to be socialists. Wonder how that's going to work out.
I don't know. I think maybe in some cases it's hereditary. It's a gene that's missing or something.
Yeah, don't you think socialism just invites somebody to own you and tell you what to do?
Well, I can't understand that if you want freedom, you cannot believe in socialism.
Yeah. I couldn't figure out why Biden picked Harris, because she couldn't even win a primary race. She pulled out for the first election. And then it occurred to me what was going on. He was thinking that she would make a great insurance policy, because they wouldn't want to get rid of Joe after they had her in second in command. I don't know how it'll work out for him, but
well, that's possibly true. Now, I have heard from sources that are not too reliable, but
yeah,
everybody's got their opinion, including myself. But I've heard that he made a deal with the socialists.
Yeah, to pick her.
Get him elected.
Mm-hmm.
That he would resign for health reasons in about 6 to 8 months, and let her become the president.
Yeah.
Now that's what I've heard.
Well, it's sure.
I don't necessarily believe it. That's just what I've heard.
Back when J. Edgar Hoover was head of the FBI, they claimed he kept a file in the safe on all the politicians. So if one of them got to giving him a hard time, he could say, well, you remember that time you was over there in that motel with that little boy?
Right.
That kind of stuff.
Right.
Well, that's, the FBI had Hunter Biden's laptop for months.
I know they have.
And never said a word about it. Nothing about it during impeachment and all that stuff. They had that as insurance, so that when Joe got in, if he got in, they could control him. That's just exactly what that's all about.
I'm pretty sure that's true, and what really gets me is your media. You're talking about Twitter and the others,
Yeah.
They refused to allow the New York Post to put their revelations about Hunter Biden on social media. They said it was unsubstantiated. Well, the New York Post is a 200-year-old newspaper.
Started by Alexander Hamilton before Aaron Burr got a hold of him.
And it doesn't have an untarnished record, but by the same time, it's a lot more reputable than when they printed the dossier, whatever it is, on Trump. They printed all that information that was unsubstantiated. But when they come out with something that was revealed by someone that actually had close contact with Joe Biden, this whistleblower on Trump, I don't think he'd ever met Trump. Never met Trump. But this guy, what is it, Bobulinski or something?
Something like that.
Yeah, okay.
Bob Louie.
Yeah. He actually had lunch, dinner with Joe Biden, and he also was with Hunter Biden when they laid all these plans of what they were going to do, and he got out of the situation because he did not feel like it was.
I think they's cutting him out of the loot too.
Yeah,
And then he realized he was a fall guy,
right, yeah,
and he didn't want to be fell on.
right, right. But see, I think if that story had hit social media like it should have, that it would change a lot of people's mind who have voted early.
I heard that you could change your vote in some place. How the devil do you do that?
Well, you go down to the election board
Yeah.
and they nullify the vote that you've made.
How do they know which vote you made?
Well, you doing it. Well, they can tell who I was when I vote. You know, when you go vote, they give you a number. They write your name down. Okay?
Well, that's not a secret ballot then.
Well, I didn't say it was, but right down here, I went down and voted early. I don't know whether you did or not, but I went down and voted early. Well, I still had my Denver address, so we had to change that, you know,
Yeah.
and everything. They verified that I was eligible to vote, so they gave me a ticket with my number on it. Okay. I take that ticket and present it to whoever is helping you with the voting machine.
Yeah.
Okay. And you enter that ticket number first. Okay, you enter the ticket number first.
Yeah.
Then you proceed to vote.
Well, that erases everything about secret ballots.
Oh, I know. I didn't say it was secret ballot.
Well, no, but they always
It's
talk
secret.
about.
The only thing secret is nobody looking over your shoulder right then.
And I didn't know they could do that. I thought it was. I mean, if you can trace the person to the vote.
Well, it's easier to do with a mail-in because
Oh yeah.
because they have the physical vote and
And it's not open
they
yet.
can pull that out. Okay.
Well, I thought the way they done that, they left you had a signed envelope there with your name on the outside of it and signed that it's you and verified. And then whenever they get there, they look at all that and verify it, and then they tear it open and pitch your ballot over in a stack.
In a church.
Yeah, probably. It depends on who you are. Pitch it over in a stack, and then they can't trace it back to who you was. I didn't know there's something funny there.
Yeah. Well, you know, everybody thinks Trump's crazy when he comes out with these things about election fraud, but of the
No,
absence of the ballots that's been mailed, I think, see if I remember, somewhere in the neighborhood of 3 or 4 million ballots.
yeah.
There's only been 1 million and so returned.
Well, unless there's a landslide on election day, and I think there will be, but unless there's a landslide of votes on election day, they'll be accounting till they win. They'll be accounting till January, time to swear him in, and it'll take them that long to pull Al Franken and put Joe in. He may be dead of old age by the time they get him in there.
He could, you know. Well, like I say, I think it's going to be interesting.
Well, they've got it set up, you know, asking him if he will accept the results of the election, and they're talking about and building people up that you can't count the vote today that the vote is. It'll be a while before we have everything counted. In other words, we got to keep counting till we get what we want. And it's a crooked business going on.
Well, I think so too, you know, and I don't know whether 2020 is going to be a mirror of 2016 or 2016.
Maybe of 2000, the year 2000, when they counted all in December.
But what I'm saying, from what you see, as far as the rallies that Trump's have and the participation of people that come to those rallies,
And them there car cavalcades and them
and
there,
then look at what comes to Biden's rally, you know, You got Barack having a drive-in in Atlanta.
With a bullhorn and
Yeah.
15 people.
Well, I encountered more traffic on the way to Atlanta when I come through there with that load of watermelons. And
I'd say you did.
that was in that
You about
crowded
run
place.
over as many as showed up for
I
theirs.
pushed that many out of my way.
I don't know. I think it's an interesting time. This year, you know, I heard today that Australia was down to no new cases of the Kung flu. Of course, I think that's just putting it off. They're going to get it sooner or later. And then you got some people saying, well, if we'd shut down and locked down like Australia did, we'd have this over with. No, you'd have to stay locked down. You figured out some way to keep them getting it, a vaccine that actually works or something. But people don't understand. Australia is an island, really. It's a big island. It's called a continent, but it's still a big island, and they can isolate right good. And the world does not depend on Australia to keep the money going and the markets open. And the world, if the United States shut down tight for 3 or 4 months like Australia did, there would be people starving around the world because we was closed for business. You know, it got you couldn't find toilet paper and meat. You couldn't buy a whole lot of things around in the United States. What little shutdown we had, official shutdown.
They say people never heard of oak leaves.
Yeah, and if you and corn cobs, I never tried that. I had more sense. If you close the United States for business for 3 months, there'll be people in Africa and other places that depend on us for food starved to death.
Yeah, there would be, you know. And
Be more starved than we'd save.
of course, what is the current name of Rhodesia?
Zimbabwe.
Zimbabwe, okay. Prior to becoming Zimbabwe, they were a net exporter
Yep.
of everything: food, tobacco, minerals, lumber, whatever it was. And after they renamed it, and I say there's a lot to do in a name, you know. When they renamed it, they
replaced all the landowners, farmers with reparated native people, and
Right.
they didn't know how to raise anything.
Right. You never needed to.
No, and you know, the Ukraine was a basket, the food basket of Asia, really,
Right.
until Stalin took over, and
Right.
he starved them out to get them under his thumb right good, you know,
Right,
and,
yeah.
and then they were having grain shortage. You know, everybody used to talk about, well, why is Russia so crazy about wheat? Why don't they, or the USSR, why are they starving for wheat? Won't they eat some taters or something? Well, it
They'd
wasn't
make
that
liquor
simple.
out of taters.
Well, I hadn't thought about it. They all went for vodka, didn't they?
Yeah.
We can always get drunk. We ain't got nothing to eat. We'll just get drunk.
Well, you know, they accused Trump of being pro-Russian,
Yeah.
but they failed to realize that under Obama and Biden, they gave Russia the Crimean.
Yeah, and they also, Hillary, she negotiated a deal for them on the, what's that, uranium holding company that the Russians actually own
Right,
the mineral rights and some of our
Right.
uranium deposits.
right.
But, you know, this is all crooked business. They don't mean for hillbillies like us to understand it, and of course I don't.
Well, you know, Obama and Biden were supposed to help the Ukraine when Russia was ready
Send
to
them
put
blankets.
all they sent them was medical supplies, you know, blankets and
Yeah, if
that
you-
sort of thing.
if you-
No guns, no
If
ammunition.
you got a
no-
war, if you got a war going, if you can't buy a gun, you at least need some bandages.
Well, Trump has sent them guns,
Yeah.
and he has threatened to put some munitions there that the Russians don't want there by any means, you know.
Well, what is this? I've just been hearing a little bit about it, but I ain't seen nothing really about the Iranians trying to send some missiles or something to Venezuela. You heard anything about that?
Well, you know, I think they have kind of jumped the gun a little bit to say that was happening, but they see the possibility since, see, the Democrats are kind of say, well, those sort of things were under embargo, and when Trump did away with the Iranian deal, it set them up free where they could sell good, missiles and things to anybody they wanted to. And of course, Trump put a stop to that right quick. He told them exactly what he was going to do, that if they tried to send missiles into Venezuela, that he was going to destroy them.
he had a bigger button than the little. Hey, is old what's his name still alive? They killed him off 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
Kim Jong Un, is that his name?
Oh, you talking about?
That there little funny haircut guy in North Korea.
Oh, you talking about Kim Jong Il? Kim Jong Il, yeah.
Okay, Un was his daddy and he's ill.
Yeah.
Oh well, they had him on
And his
life.
mama's name was Ouch.
Okay, they had him on life support here 6 months ago. They said.
Yeah, he was supposed to have something bad, but he made a miraculous recovery.
You know, they talk about Trump. Hey, Trump put his arm around him and all that stuff. Well, what Trump does, he put his arm around him and said, "You listen, you little rascal. You stir up any trouble, you're going to need 2 haircuts."
Well, I think that's true, but you know, I don't know how many billions of dollars the Democrats paid to North Korea over the years to
so
keep
they can develop their nuclear energy.
Yeah, exactly right. And they developed the nuclear energy. See, the real problem over there is from North Korea to Seoul, South Carolina, it's not for 25 miles.
You know it. You don't even need a missile. You can throw it over there with a good slingshot.
That's right. And
hey, I read where they had this new gun that they had made that'd shoot 1,000 miles.
That what? Shoots
A new
1,000.
gun, a new gun that would shoot 1,000 miles. I'm talking about we got it, not.
Oh, okay.
It'd be hard to hit a squirrel, and
That's right. I mean, if you could see him, you
yeah,
could
it'd be
hit him.
rotten time you got there to eat
Well,
it.
but you know, they killed one of these warlords in Afghanistan from 2 miles away.
Yeah.
He'd come out and take his constitutional on his balcony every morning
Yeah.
and sashay around, and this Scottish marksman calculated the wind directions and everything.
Was he Scottish?
Yeah, he was Scottish.
Okay.
And
Well, you know why Scots are such good shots, don't you?
they won't waste no ammunition.
That's right. Too stingy to waste any bullet.
So, but he come out and stretched and everything one morning, and when he did, he went down.
Yeah, I never did hear the gunfire, did he?
No, he couldn't hear the gunfire. So there's a lot of interesting things going on. You know, Iran would not have had the money to do what all they did if Barack Obama hadn't released that money to them.
Yeah, I sent them billions over on a pallet.
He said, oh, yeah, had to,
Hello.
you know, just thought you might could have got the contract to unload that with your...
Can you imagine how crooked and stupid that would be if it was on the up and up? You know good and well that any other government transaction, if we was going to free up their $1 billion instead of however many it was, instead of sending it over in cash, we would just have done a little computer typing and they'd have had it in their account and they could have spent it however they wanted to, but we'd know about it. But they insisted on cash and we went along with it because we either had a complete damn fools or they had to know that they wasn't going to buy everything on if you got a black market, if you got a white market, they wasn't going to be up front of that money. They was going to use it for terrorism and stuff they wasn't supposed to. How could I mean, if the Obama administration believed, there's two possibilities. either they believed that the Iranians just wanted cash so we wouldn't turn the money off, and they had a legitimate reason to get it. Either they believed that, or they knew that it was going to be used for purposes we didn't approve of. Well, one case, they're either complete damn fools, or the other case, they don't care.
Well, I think it's both.
Well, it probably was.
Okay. You ever seen a complete damn fool that didn't care?
Yeah,
Well,
I've known a few of them.
You saw one then.
Yep. A lot of them run over you out in the road and stuff.
Well,
You remember them goats we got? What'd you ever do with your goat?
my goats, well, some dogs, neighbor dogs, come over there and attacked them.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them got killed. And I gave the other two to the little zoo over here. What's the one over here on the back highway? Ponderosa.
Oh, yeah, over there.
Over at Ponderosa. So I'm assuming they have either eaten them or they're still over there.
Yeah, I got two. I was going to have one for Thanksgiving, one for Christmas, and I got too tender-hearted to eat them. And I didn't break even, but I didn't lose much.
Well, like I say, I had purchased another little goat. I had 3 of them, and those dogs come over and jumped them and killed a nanny goat, and I had one nanny and one.
Didn't you have some Muscovy ducks too?
Yeah, I sold most of my Muscovy ducks, you know, and with the understanding that when I got ready to go back in the duck business, I could get me a couple of pair. So he's got 25 or 30 Muscovy ducks now. And did you know, you ever eat a duck?
No, yeah, one.
A Muscovy duck, if you'll take him when he's about 17 weeks old.
Nail his feet to a board and feed him?
Oh, well, no, you don't
That's a
do it like
goose.
the Chinese do, but just when he's about 17 months old, when you fed him normally, you know.
17 months or 17 weeks?
17 weeks.
Okay.
Okay. You can get, that is the best duck. You'd throw rocks at a Peking duck if you ever eat one of those Muscovy
And
ducks.
I've only had one duck. I've made up my mind back when my young'uns was at home. I tried to fix something different for Thanksgiving
Right.
every Christmas, and we'd had turkey, and I'd never had a duck. And I had a duck, and I got a goose, and I had a goose. A goose is a miraculous thing. I think it was an 18-pound goose, and I cooked on that sucker, and I got 23 pounds of grease out of it and still had meat left. That's the greasiest animal, and I didn't know it at the time, but that's what they use it. The grease is what they like. They make all sorts. Them French people make a lot of stuff out of that grease.
Yeah,
But you know, I fixed that thing. I worked on it. I cooked on it and prepared, and it took me forever to get one. And the butcher over here at Save-A-Lot got me one. And I'd done everything that the book said to do. And I got that thing ready to eat, and I sliced it up. And everybody that ate it, and I got a bite of it, and it was plumb good. It was good.
right,
But I didn't want any more. It just took one bite to fill you up.
right.
And then I had all that grease to dispose of, and I didn't know you're supposed to make all sorts of things out of that, so all I made out of it was a mess.
You know, a goose or geese are some of the best watch animals you can get.
It couldn't be much better than a guinea.
Yeah, they are. They're better than a guinea, and I'll tell you what. Where I was raised, it was approximately maybe 3,000 feet or better from our house to the main road. That's how long our driveway was.
Yeah.
Those geese could tell when somebody either walked into the end of that driveway or drove into the end of that driveway. They knew 3,000 feet away. They would honk and hiss and let you know somebody was coming down that road. and even before the dogs knew they were coming, the geese knew they were coming. So they make excellent guard animals.
And I don't know, can you get an attack goose?
They are attacked animals. Have you ever had a goose to flog you?
I've seen them. We had back when I was a little bitty feller, I was maybe 3 years old, and we had this big old red rooster. And every time I'd go out of the house, that rooster would take out after me. And, a big old rooster after somebody about 2 feet tall, it's not something. And I couldn't go out of the house. And my mother told my daddy what was going on. So he coop degraced that there rooster. And my mother made rooster and dumplings. And I want you to know, I was just a little fella, but I really enjoyed eating that son of a bitch.
You had good reason to enjoy it.
Yeah, I did. I can remember grinning when they told me what I was eating.
The geese I remember most. We had all kind of geese and Muscova ducks and regular chickens and Rhode Island Reds and barred chickens. We probably had, I'm going to say, anywhere from 700-800 to 1,000 chickens that Daddy pastured and fed. Okay, and we had eggs by the 5-gallon bucket full that we would sell during the Second World War, and because eggs and everything were scarce, and we could sell them without people having to have a food stamps. Okay, we go to town on Saturday, and we'd have that old '37 Chevrolet. It was a 2-door sedan. It wasn't a coupe. It was a 2-door sedan, and we'd have that thing packed full of chickens that were on ice. We'd have it packed full of eggs, and I would.
Did you have them in cages or just running around?
Chickens?
Yeah.
Oh, we'd already killed them, dressed them. Okay. And I would always have at least 2 rabbits that I had trapped and killed right before we got. Now, we had no refrigerator out there on the back porch. It was run by kerosene. And so I could actually keep my rabbits, if I dressed them out before a day or so before we went to town. I could.
Did you have to leave a foot on them?
Huh?
Did you have to leave a foot on them?
No. But now I'd take them up and I'd get 75 cents from rabbits during the Second World War. I was only 9-10-year-old kid walking around town with $1.50 in his pocket, and I did that about every weekend. We'd go to town and take chickens and take eggs and maybe vegetables and things like that, because we could sell them, and you did not have to have food stamps.
You were talking about hauling chickens in the car, and there's an old boy. He bought some engine parts off me or something, and he needed something else, and he come down here in the car. He's from up in the mountains, and him and there's 3 or 4 people in the car, and they pulled in up here at the mailbox and parked out there, and old boy got out to come over here. When he got out, there's a chicken jumped out of there, jumped out in the parking lot, and this other guy, maybe 2 of them, got out and started running after that chicken. That chicken run out in the road, and they run out in the road and run it back in the parking lot, and it run out in the road again, and they run it back in the parking lot, and it run out in the road again, and then here comes this car, and feathers went everywhere, and they just looked and went and sat back down in the car and left the chicken laying there in the road, a flat chicken. But y'all seen him, he just around and around and around, and well, let's go.
Well, you catch your chickens at night. You don't chase them during the day. You when they're on the roost, just reach up there and try to get them
They was trying to get one that had escaped before something happened to it. It didn't get there in time, or they didn't.
You just reach up there and try to get hold of both feet at the same time, then just break them on out.
They do that. Yeah, I know.
So, like I say, we had chickens everywhere, and I had one brother at home. The other 2 were in service, and he would not kill a chicken. He just did not have the heart to kill a chicken. So I was a chicken killer. You know, I had my little chopping block out there, and I had my little hatchet, and I'd lay that booger on that chopping block. I'd cut his head off, and then I'd get out of the way because he'd spurt blood and hop all around for a little bit, you know.
My mother is a tender-hearted woman you'd ever want to meet, but on Sunday morning, she'd go out and she'd throw some corn down, and she'd find her a pullet she liked, and she'd grab it, and she'd
wring his neck?
Yeah, she'd twist his head around and
Oh,
pitch it out there, and it'd flop around, you know, and then she'd come back. We had good chicken every Sunday morning,
Right.
chicken and biscuits and
Well,
gravy.
you know, I was so proud when I got old enough that I could wring a chicken's neck.
Yeah.
You know, and
No, she done just slung it around and pitched it out there.
and then when we were going to have company, that old clothesline out there, if we were going to cook 3 or 4 chickens, say we were
Yeah.
going to have a big cookout or something, I'd tie their feet and hang them on that clothesline, and then I'd take a machete and I'd play like they were Japanese soldiers.
Yeah.
And that's what I was doing. I was cutting the head off of Japanese soldiers. You know, you heard about the little kid was in 3rd or 4th grade, and they were talking about the Oriental people during the after the Second World War, and talking about them, and somebody in the back of the room says, "Damn Jap." Teacher says, "All right, I want to know who said that." Some boy says, "Joe Douglas MacArthur, 1943.
You heard about the little boy that went into school, and he got to school late, and he was there, and he dozed off, you know, and the teacher jumped on him. "What are you doing coming in here late and sleeping on your desk?" And he said, "Well, I was up all night." "What are you doing up all night?" "Well, there's a possum got in the hen house, and Daddy took the shotgun out there hunting for the possum, and old Blue, our dog, he come out, and Pop had on some of them there long handles with a trap door in the back, and old Blue cold-nosed him, and Pop pulled the shotgun off at the wrong time, and I was up all night cleaning chicken."
I don't know that, but this actually happened. My mother stopped by Sally and Jim Merle's house, cousin to Edward R. Okay?
Okay.
Edward R. was born.
He's over in Europe at the
He's
time.
right there. He's born about 12, 13 miles from where I was raised. Well, they had a peach orchard. Mama come in there, and she's drinking coffee with Miss Merle, and Mama said, "I sure am tired, since I've been up all night peeling peaches." Miss Merle says, says, "That's kind of hard." Says, "Somebody come out last night and stole all our peaches." Well, she knew that we didn't get them because we bought ours from S.K. Anderson,
Yeah.
who went down to the sand hills every year and brought back loads of peaches, and we bought them from him.
Yeah.
So,
You know, my daddy told me a story that happened down Cold Creek, down there where he was raised. And then later on, I read a book called, by a guy named Fraser, a book called Cold Mountain, that was a story from the Civil War that took place over in North Carolina. A guy named Inman had left the army or left the hospital or prison camp or something, and anyways, it's a story about him going back home. But in the process, this same story come up. Now, I don't know. I'm pretty sure that my dad, well, I know my daddy, it happened, and I'm wondering if this is just a good story that this guy thought up that wrote the book, or whether he picked it up. But Pop said that back during hard times, this guy had a corn crib. You know, he full of corn, and back then people would steal whatever they could get. Some people would. And he said he got to noticing that he had this where you could reach between the boards and pull his corn out. And he got to noticing his corn was disappearing out that hole. And what was happening, somebody's coming there of a night and reaching in there and dragging out a sack full of corn, selling it or grinding it up or doing something with it. So this old man put a steel trap in there inside where you could reach in there through that hole, and it was
in the granary.
Yeah, you had to reach in there, and the next morning he come out and he said this fella was standing there with his arm stuck in the building and couldn't get loose because he'd already reached in as far as he'd go, and there wasn't no way to get in there and turn himself loose, and he was there hung that steel trap. Said the old man went on and fed his stock and come back and eat breakfast, spoke to that guy, went by, hello, went on and fed his stock, and come back and eat breakfast, and went up there and turned him loose.
Well, I told the story once before. You may remember it, but there was a man in our community, which about everybody in the community I was raised in, owned their own home, paid their debts, went to church on Sunday, and worked all during the week.
Yeah.
Well, there was one man in the community that stole, and you couldn't leave anything sitting around in the back field or anywhere. You know, it's almost like the radiator on that truck around there, you know. But
You get a radiator going?
well, not on this one, but that one parked in the back. I'll tell you that story.
Okay.
See, yeah, but let me finish this one. They had a light snow one night, and somebody came and stole all of my daddy's guineas that were roosting in a tree, and they left one. One guinea, didn't get all of them. Well, it didn't snow very much, and the tracks led directly to this guy's house that was known to steal. Well, my daddy, we raised a black boy in our family. Daddy more or less took him in. So, and his name was Alvis. So Alvis and Daddy followed them tracks, and I can tell you the man's name, not going to. And they knew who got the guineas. So my dad said, "Come on back, Alvis." Says, "Tonight I want you to catch that last guinea." And says, "We're going to take it over there to him." So my daddy, they caught that last guinea, which I think there was 12, 13, something like that. And they took him over to his house, knocked on the door, and says, "You missed one guinea the other night." Says, "I wanted to bring you this one so it would not be lonesome," and handed in the guinea and left.
Yeah.
That guy brought every one of those guineas back. He straightened up and never was known to steal anything again after that happened.
You know, I just looking at a video. I'd seen the story before, but you know this year, what's his name? Phil Robertson. That's the Duck Dynasty guy.
Why?
He said that back before he struck it rich, he was catching and selling catfish for a living, and he said that somebody got to stealing his running his lines and stealing his catfish, and he said he went in and he found these guys there stealing one day, and he said he just held a gun on them and said, "Now, either one of you fellas got any gun?" No, and he said, "I don't want you stealing. Just bring your boat over here and I'll give you some fish." And he said, "The next time you need fish, I live down so-and-so. You come by there and I'll fix you up. You won't have to steal anymore. And he said they quit bothering his fish. You can make people honest, I guess, by catching them.
Well, I guess that's right, you know. But so many people are not, they don't really regret the part that they stole. The only thing they regret was that it got caught.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Well, what
But let
about
me
the
tell you,
radiator?
The radiator, right? It's sitting around there at
When?
1996.
Okay.
Crew cab duty sitting right here in the back on your back lot.
When?
Okay.
When was it?
Huh?
When was it?
When was it stolen?
Yeah.
Okay. I parked that truck out at the house when the city raided this lot.
Okay,
Okay, all right.
It ain't been lately then.
No, well, it sat out there 5 years.
Mm-hmm. Kind of like that boat I had in my yard.
I just drove it in, okay. So I go out there, I said, I sold a trailer off of it. I had that big gooseneck trailer hooked behind it. I sold the trailer. I said, well, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to use that old truck, you know. I drove it right in there. Had a new $1,800 transmission in it.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, I remember.
I go in there and I get it backed up and one of the tires are flat. So I jack it up, getting ready to take the tire off, and I did not have a lug wrench big enough to fit the lugs on that truck because they had some oversized lug nuts on it. So I left it jacked up, and I went to the house to get a different lug wrench. Actually, I was going to get a pull bar with some sockets. And when I come back, somebody had stolen my jack, stole the radiator, and that was parked just right there at the barn. Stole the radiator, stole the 2 old batteries that wasn't no good, and stole my jack while I was going to get a lug wrench.
Yeah. Well, you know, used to be an old guy down here. Jacksboro had a junkyard. Nolan Leach was his name. He'd been dead for 100 years, but he was one of them old junkyard guys. But he had this old boy that'd come in about once a week, and he'd sell him a differential or a transmission or something. And he just $5. Well, Nolan would just buy it. And finally, one day that happened, this guy had hung around there, and Nolan says, Nolan, don't you know that guy's a stealing them out of the back? He said, yeah, I know, but I can't get nobody else to take them out with $5.
Well,
You know, he built that building down there, just beside that filling station there going into Jacksboro. He built that building back about 1960. And when he was filling in front of it, he was pouring a concrete wall in front of that building so that the dirt wouldn't push it in the basement. And he had taken more concrete than he wanted to use, and he had a bunch of railroad ties. And he just went to dropping them down in there with the concrete. And somebody said, Nolan, don't you know they'll finally rot? And he said, yeah, I know, but they won't rot while I'm here. And as far as I know, they've never had any trouble with that wall. And that's been 70 years, ain't it?
right,
60 years.
Yeah, 60,
Yep.
40, 60 years, yeah, that you had, you know. Well, like you've seen a lot of things in your lifetime. I've seen an awful lot of them in mine, and I appreciate and cherish all the memories I have of so many things, you know. I'm fortunate in a lot of ways, you know. You need to do some research on the Thomas Jefferson Academy at McLeansville, North Carolina. It was a magnificent girls' academy. They had a teacher's house down there that the teachers lived in. They had, which I understand that they built a ramp or something. They may have moved that house. I need to go see. Then they had the president of the academy's house up there, which is a magnificent house that O.H. Hines and his people owned. There was a 3-story huge wooden classroom over there. They tore it down and they used just the foyer of that house for a 5-room house. Okay, they made a 5-room house out of the foyer.
That's a good sized little building, wasn't it?
It was. Then the dormitory that most of the girls lived in, the main one, is still there. It's a huge house. Okay, very plain, very square. It looked like a Quaker's house or something. But it probably, I don't know, I've never been in that one. I've always meant to, but I've been in that 3-story classroom they had. And but the dormitory is still there. And then I told you about the gubernatorial candidate that drove the old Packard with the concave roof. His house is still there. And there's some real ancient old houses there that I've really
You say he
been
was
to
a gubernatorial candidate?
Yeah.
Did he do any good?
He did not get elected in 1936 is when he ran. Okay.
Well, Bob, we about got in our time limit. You got any more tall tales you want to tell?
Well, no, I think I've got a bunch more, but we'll save
We'll
them
save
for
them
later.
next week. We'll probably, maybe they'll be close to having the votes counted this time next week.
I doubt it.
Well, they got to keep counting till their man wins. Sayonara, folks.
Okay. See you, folks. See you next week.